Ridiculous Crime is a production of iHeartRadio.
Da, 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 da. Hey, Elizabeth!
Zaron. Hi.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Because I saw you walk in with this big smile on your face. And I don't want to ruin it, so I'm just going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you know what's ridiculous?
I do.
I knew it from the look on your face.
I know what's ridiculous.
What?
You like corn, right? Both
The band? Yeah.
Both the vegetable.
Oh, the edible treat.
The edible treat, and then with a K, the band.
Yes.
You like that?
I do.
The lead singer, Jonathan Davis.
Oh, yeah,
right?
totally. He and I are both style kings when it comes to the Adidas tracksuit being our signature look.
Yes. Well, here's another area in which he's a style king.
Uh-huh.
He has a company called Freak on a Leash.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Which is the name of the band's song.
Yes, it's not one of the songs.
It's a song.
One of their big hits.
Freak on a Leash is a pet accessory company.
Oh, it's right there.
It's right there. And so he has a new collaboration with some, I don't know, some like celebrity stylist.
Wait a minute. Is this going to be the first mashup I like?
I think so.
Whoa!
Ashton Michael is Ashton Hirota.
New. I feel so brand
Is
new.
I guess he's a stylist. Anyway.
Allison Hirota?
Ashton Hirota.
Ashton Hirota.
He has a company, Ashton Michael. They're doing a collab.
Ashton Michael.
With Freak on a Leash. Graphic bandanas.
Okay.
A Ouija plush toy.
Uh-huh.
A suede tug rope toy.
Maybe you say Ouija, you mean like a Ouija board for dogs to chew up?
It looks like the, what do they call it? A plank.
Oh, like the selector type thing?
Yeah,
like
what's that called
I don't
anyway?
know.
The
Ouija board's mouse.
It's happened to me a couple times in my life where I have to remember what that word is. Planchette.
Planchette. Oh, that's what you were looking for.
Elizabeth, you did it again.
Way to go.
So yeah, look, you
flyer.
can see that they. I'm showing you a picture right now for those not in the room. It's basically looks like those studded punk belts.
Yeah, kind of.
And you know, full disclosure, I've got 2 dogs now.
That's true.
And I don't think either of them would look appropriate in Freak on a Leash
You
gear.
don't think so?
No, they're like
even if I
pies.
slid it to them and like, hey,
they're like little
just try this on.
Sunshine. They're less corn.
Your flesh mama will love this.
And more like Grateful Dead, 74.
Oh, they're those kind
they're
of dogs.
Mellow
dogs.
Sunshine, or like you know,
they belong in like a garden.
Yeah, like an Allman Brothers.
Yeah, but not in like a parking
guitar
lot
solo
with broken glass.
No, they're not Bad Boy Joneses. They're Sweetie Pies. But yeah, so anyway, Freak on a Leash, dog apparel. There's an entire website, of course.
This is ridiculous. You got me to like.
I know.
Mashup.
I found a mashup: corn and dog collars.
Dog collars.
Well, they have like a harness that looks like a little like denim vest. It's from the Dirtbag collection.
Totally. Very fun.
From the I Sell Single Cigarettes
Totally.
in a
Sleeveless.
Gas station parking lot.
Clean, like, frayed at the edges, right?
With
Like you
patches.
took a jacket and cut the sleeves off.
Yeah, with patches for like corn.
Uh-huh.
And then you go up to the dog and you're like, name 3 songs. You're not a real corn fan. Anyway, ridiculous.
Stressing a dog in a parking lot.
Yes.
The owner's looking at me all like strange. Like, what's wrong with you, man? Hey, man, your dog's the one who's coming at me with this.
You're the one with a freak on a leash. See, there's so much you can do with this. It's
yeah.
right there.
Well, I got a question for you that's not that.
Do you know what's ridiculous?
Do you know how they say what made the Mona Lisa famous isn't that it was painted by Leonardo da Vinci?
Is Leonardo DiCaprio.
No, not that either, Elizabeth.
Oh.
Yeah, you need to go back to school. Open the schools. And it isn't because it's a priceless masterpiece. It is. I mean, it's a priceless masterpiece. But that's not why it's famous. Apparently, it's famous because, as we've covered here on the show before, the Mona Lisa became famous when it was stolen.
Yes.
Now, guess what, Elizabeth? That's also the reason that the painting, The Scream, is famous.
Oh, really?
At least that's what the guy who stole it says.
And he would say that.
He would. This is Ridiculous Crime, a podcast about absurd and outrageous capers, heists, and cons. It's always 99% murder-free and 100% ridiculous, babies.
Redonk-donk.
Elizabeth.
Darren.
Today, I would like to start our story by reading from a diary.
I bet you would.
But don't worry, it's not my diary.
Oh, thank God.
I don't keep a diary. My pops taught me you don't keep notes on a criminal conspiracy. Wait, I'm being told in my earpiece. That was not my pops. That was Stringer Bell from The Wire. Either way, I don't keep a diary. But you know who does, or rather who did?
Uh-huh.
Edvard Munch, the Norwegian painter.
Yeah.
You know much about him?
No.
Okay, well, he was, and this is from the New York Times description of him, and I quote, a troubled recluse who lived in only 2 rooms of a large house in Oslo, the rest of which was filled with storage boxes, clutter, and paintings that he refused to sell. When he died in 1944, at age 80, he willed his art to the city, which built the Munch Museum to house it.
Dream setup.
Now, sadly, as the Times also notes, quote, city officials have been criticized for spending too little to protect and promote it.
Oh.
Yeah. So what about his artwork, though? Like, what do you
what
know?
about it? It's very...
Very sensual, very...
It's not sensual.
No, not at all.
There's a lot... It's troubled. It's,
I would say...
vivid colors.
Very vivid, yeah. Much like Van Gogh, where he is working with...
heavy brushstrokes.
Yes, and heavy mental illness.
And heavy mental...
So,
yes.
he very much drew on from his experience of life, right?
Yeah,
so, for instance, the inspiration of his most famous work came from a sunset he saw one day.
Uh-huh.
Story goes, he's out walking with a pair of friends. The sun is setting. It's amazing. He's overcome. The mood was severe. It captivates his mind, right? The sky looks like blood. Mm-hmm. Edvard Munch pauses a moment, tells his friends, I need to take this all in, right? He sits down or whatever, like on a fence, leans on it, whatever. He's overcome by the beauty, the horror of this blood-red sky. He says it's like tongues of fire licking the heavens above a blue-black fjord. Those are his words, right? Now, we all know this because he recorded it in his diary. On January 22nd, 1892, Edvard Munch scribbled in his diary, and I quote, one evening I was walking along a path. The city was on one side and the fjord below. I felt tired and ill, and I stopped and looked out over the fjord. The sun was setting and the clouds turning blood red. I sensed a scream passing through nature. It seemed to me that I heard the scream. I painted this picture, painted the clouds as actual blood. The colors shrieked. This became the scream. Now, Elizabeth, I can only assume that you are familiar with the painting The Scream.
I am.
Do you like it?
It's not that I don't like it. I don't have, strong feelings either way. I think hearing this story, it's really interesting because you don't really think of sunsets, at least I don't, in that sort of sinister, you can have it in kind of a melancholy way, but to have a scream go through nature, it seems more urgent and
it's like Werner Herzog. Only he would hear the scream in nature in a sunset.
Exactly.
Now, there are some theories that what Munch was experiencing that afternoon on his walk with his friends, we would now call a panic attack.
Okay,
the painting is an artist's rendition of a panic attack. Now, I don't know if I agree with that or even really like that theory. It's fun to contemplate, but I resist diagnosing things retroactively.
Yeah, completely.
Even if it applies, I'm like, but you know me, I'm not a big fan of labels.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, Edvard Munch, he paints The Scream in 1893. In fact, he painted it multiple times, twice in pastels, twice in oils, as if he were seeking a way to capture what he experienced, that scream of nature, right? And there's another interesting theory about the painting that Edvard Munch saw that day the tongues of fire licking the heavens over the blue-black fjord and those blood-red skies, and there may have been a meteorological cause for it.
Okay.
So some scholars suggest that Edvard Munch was so taken with the sky because of the eruption of the supervolcano Krakatoa.
Oh.
Yeah, like it was huge. It was massive. When it erupted, people 1,900 miles away in Perth, Australia heard the explosion.
Yeah.
People 3,000 miles away in Mauritius, they heard the explosion. 3,000 miles away heard the explosion.
It's crazy.
It destroyed 70% of the island of Krakatoa when it went off, right? So it turned skies blood red with ash and dust all around the globe, right? Just darkened skies, including as far away as Norway.
Yeah.
There's only one problem with this theory, though. Edvard Munch painted The Scream in 1893, and Krakatoa erupted in 1883.
Right.
A full decade earlier.
Well, he could have been sitting on that idea for a decade.
Sure. The skies were not blood red for a decade, though, so it's doubtful that the supervolcano, but perhaps he did wait. But he makes it seem as if he painted it very urgent. Yes.
Remember when the wildfires here, it was during COVID time. So I think it was 2020.
Oh, yeah, when we had the Blade Runner skies?
Yeah, where the entire day. Now that is something that kind of was panic-inducing.
For you?
Yeah, because it was so unsettling. It was perpetual sunset all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was orange and red when you looked outside. That the entire sky,
I loved
everything.
It. Amanda was going to go away, so I loved it.
Yeah, but then I kept thinking, what if it doesn't?
Yeah, see, that's where we differ.
And that's the worst case scenario. And it was really unsettling. And it was weird in terms of, disrupting your circadian rhythm, your sense of time of day.
Yes, overcast skies do that to me.
Yeah,
Where I can't tell because I use the sun to mark time.
Okay.
A lot.
You don't own a watch?
Well, no, I do, but it's just a habit I got into as a house painter. You're outside all the time.
Oh.
You know exactly where the sun's at this point, it means this.
Yeah.
Sun's at this point, it means that. So you use the sun just subtly to kind of track your day.
Yeah, so when it's overcast, you're just like...
I'm screwed. I have no clock.
10 a.m.
Yeah, I'm like a guy with a sundial. I'm like, I can't tell you what time it is.
But I mean, I could see how that kind of, if it was Krakatoa, it would, stay with you, and then maybe,
Perhaps.
5 years from now, I'm going to write
you see it again?
a really terrifying poem about this Blade Runner sky day.
There's another theory for what inspired the world-famous painting.
Mm-hmm.
It's based on the view that... the view of the painting, like actually what you see. People figured out where he was standing for that picture.
Oh, no way.
It was identified as this road in Oslo that looks out from the hill of Ekeberg. And coincidentally, Edvard Munch's sister, Laura Catherine, lived at the base of the Ekeberg hill, so maybe he was visiting her. We don't know. She lived in a mental asylum, one that was next door to a slaughterhouse.
Oh, that's a great place.
Right? So perhaps walking past where his sister was locked up in a lunatic asylum next to a slaughterhouse overcame him, and the blood-red skies were like, oh, I hear the scream of nature.
Oh, God.
Right? You start, it starts getting a little deeper.
Well, it's like in Dublin, I think the Guinness factory is right by a hospital for alcoholics.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, but it doesn't smell good outside the Guinness factory.
No, the wort they use for the beer.
It's just,
It's really, the malts and everything. Like, it's
exactly.
not a good smell.
But, it's location.
I'm telling you. A slaughterhouse next to an asylum.
It's so...
Anyway.
That's some bad zoning.
What we do know is that on August 22nd, 2004, the Scream was stolen.
What?
Yeah, forget all these theories,
when
Elizabeth.
Was it?
2004, August 22nd, 2004.
Interesting. I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, I want to tell you about that. So sit back, relax,
right,
get comfortable. And you know what, Elizabeth? Close your eyes.
Wait,
I want you to picture
my
it.
eyes are closed. You're pulling an early one like me.
Yeah. It's August 22nd, 2004. It's been a quiet morning in the Munch Museum in Oslo, Norway. Elizabeth, you are a candy wrapper. One that was intended for the trash but slipped from a child's hand, and you missed the waste receptacle. Now you sit on the museum floor, tucked up behind the trash bin. Wrinkled and crinkled as you are, you still have quite the view of the museum's paintings on display, so you've been enjoying your day. As the museum goers circulate past you, no one stoops to pick you up. They're too focused on the artwork to notice a discarded candy wrapper. Laughing children pass, couples on first dates amble past, engaged in that flirtatious appraisals of art. For the last few hours, you've done some people watching, but mostly you've been contemplating the pained anguish of the figure in the world-famous painting, The Scream, by the namesake of the museum, Edvard Munch. As a candy wrapper, you have little conception of the larger conversations of the art world, nor are you familiar with the development of the expressionist movement of the late 19th century. But you know what you like, and you are captivated by Munch's use of color to convey his interiority. The emotional landscape becomes the physical landscape. If you could paint, you would like to paint like Edvard Munch. From your vantage on the floor, you also have a view of the front door to the museum. And around 20 minutes after 11 a.m., your reverie of artistic contemplation is disturbed when you see two men running up to the museum, right at the sliding glass door. And you know it's trouble because both men are wearing dark hoodies and balaclava face masks. They look like real criminals. You watch as they race up to the museum and slam into the sliding glass door. Both art thieves bounce off the glass, stunned. They pick themselves up like birds that have run into a window. They wait for the sliding glass door to open, then they charge into the museum. You watch them start off to the right, but then they come back and they go to the left. Then a moment later, they come back into view. They look around a moment, then they go back to the left. And then they finally come back into view and they locate what they've come for. It's right in front of you. Right there in the central room of the museum where you are is Edvard Munch's painting, The Scream. And then, as if the painting itself has come alive, you hear a piercing scream. The shriek is likely due to the fact one of the art bandits is brandishing a hell of a handgun. More like a hand cannon. It's a nickel-plated .357 Magnum pistol. You don't see many of those in Europe, especially not in an art museum. Patrons shriek and scream. They gather up their children. Others shield their dates from danger, while others just flee. Being a candy wrapper, you have no other options than to watch the art thieves get to work. One of the thieves grabs Edvard Munch's painting, The Scream. He grabs hold of the painting's frame. It's wired to the wall, so the thief gives a good, hard yank. The wires go sproing, and they give loose the painting. You spot one of the security guards rush into the central room, drawn in by the screams and the shrieks. But he stops running when he sees the art bandit level his .357 Magnum at the unarmed security guard's head. The man freezes in place. He stares at the gun pressed to his forehead. His eyes go cross. One of the art thieves speaks Norwegian. You hear him tell everyone to act cool, and no one will get hurt. He stares at the security guard, whose head he's pressing the barrel of his gun against. The second art thief starts for the door. The one with the hand cannon slowly backs up and then follows him out. But, as if he doesn't want to leave without a souvenir of his own, one of the other Munch masterpieces catches his eye, so he grabs hold of it. With another hard yank, this one doesn't give so easily, so he pulls wire cutters from a pocket, snip, snip, and the wires go spring, and then he runs off with the stolen painting. He doesn't make it far before he stumbles, drops the masterpiece. The other thief, the one with the scream, looks back to see what happens, and wouldn't you know it, he also trips and bails. Both art thieves are down. The masterpiece is on the floor. Nobody moves. Nobody gets hurt. If you could laugh, you would, but the art thieves are quick to their feet. They wave their handguns to remind the museum goers, don't get any big ideas. No one makes a move, as I've said. The burglars grab their stolen booty and race for the sliding glass door. This time, they don't run into the glass door. They wait for it to slide open. And then they're gone. You spot a patron outside the museum as she snaps a photo of the art bandits as they flee. Meanwhile, back inside the museum, as museum goers breathe a sigh of relief, you marvel that this all happened in less than a minute and a half. Elizabeth. When it was all over and the art was heisted and no one was hurt, the museum director went and spoke to the press, because that's what they do. Mm-hmm. He applauded the security guard for ensuring everyone's safety.
Yeah.
He made sure, as I said, nobody moved.
Nobody get hurt.
Now, the museum director even defended the guard's action, noting that if you have a pistol or a revolver pointed at your head, there is not much you can do. In Norway, not even the police carry guns.
Oof.
Once the news broke, the nation was aghast. I mean, who steals their national treasure? Why?
Yeah.
Like, who do they possibly think they can sell this painting to? The city government's like, sell it to us. So they offer a reward for the safe return of the painting. Okay. The reward was huge, big. 2 million Norwegian kroner.
Wow.
Elizabeth, I know you love to know exchange rates and monetary conversions.
You betcha.
And inflation in this case.
Yes.
So for this one, first I had to calculate the inflation of the Norwegian kroner and then convert that into dollars. But I did it for you.
Thank you.
2 million Norwegian kroners in 2004 would be about 31 million now.
Dang,
31,686,208
as a reward?
Yes. But that's nothing for this painting is worth an insane amount. So it's not it's like it sounds big, but it's worth hundreds of millions. So
yeah, but if it's worth hundreds of millions and you think about how much gets shaved off.
Yeah.
By fences and all this stuff, like take a cool 31 mil from the city.
Yeah, I'd take it.
You know?
Now, to help sweeten the offered reward, the candy maker M&M's offered that they would match that offer by the city of Oslo.
Wait, what?
Yeah, but instead of kroner, they'd pay out 2 million M&M's.
Why are they getting up in the business?
They love the painting. They love the scream.
Wait, what?
I know, right? They just jump
in. They're like, oh, and we'll give you M&M's. They're like, well, nobody asked for that.
We're just needing some free advertising here, all right? We got a new account executive. He just really wanted to move forward with this. We thought it was a good idea.
I mean,
2 million. Come on, guys. Who doesn't love M&M's?
Why are you inserting yourself into a crime?
Melts in your hand, not in your mouth.
But
what?
I just don't understand.
So, yeah.
Like, you're just this random brand. You find out something's been stolen. You're like, oh, you know what? How about this? I'll give you 7,000 tacos from Taco Bell.
Exactly.
If you hand that back over. What is that? What's this got to do? Mind your own business. Worry about yourself. No. I want in on this. I want my name associated with this. What?
Well,
I mean, like, you see the scream is on like socks and mugs.
Oh yeah, it's emoji. I mean, it's everything.
Whatever. But it's like Eminem.
There's a whole series of movies with it, but that's the character, the screen ghost.
I don't think that's supposed to be that one, is it?
I think so.
I don't know.
I thought it was.
But was there? Now I'm questioning. Was there like a tie-in with the painting and the M&Ms?
Maybe at the time.
I would love to have my product,
Yeah, you know me. I was like, this seems like a mashup, break. And I just kept moving. I was like, oh, M&Ms.
I am stuck in this. I'm loving it.
Well, I'll let you know there were no takers. The art thieves also did not come forward.
They're like 31 mil, not interested. Wait, how many M&Ms?
So somehow the two of the most inept burglars we've covered, whoever managed to steal a masterpiece, get away with it. But like, what's the deal with them? Obviously, as I said, they're amateurs. But was this like their first burglary ever ever.
Sounds like it.
I don't know, but it feels like it.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, after the scream was stolen, the whole nation of Norway was in an uproar. It's a national treasure. As I said, headlines from around the world are playing with the obvious jokes of the world screams,
oh, yeah.
But the people of Norway, they're not in a laughing mood. So they want their masterpiece back. And they want the guilty brought to justice, even if they're a bunch of amateur burglars. The two idiots with a pair of wire cutters and just enough audacity to make off with the national treasure in a daytime snatch and grab robbery.
Right.
I mean, that's just embarrassing. And not only that, this was not the first time the painting had been stolen, Elizabeth.
Wait, really?
Yes. 10 years earlier had it been stolen the exact same way, pretty much, except for they didn't do a daytime snatch and grab, but they went in and just yanked it off the walls. But I'll tell you more about them and the earlier attempt a little later. Anyway, now that the paintings are purloined and the police of Oslo are on high alert, all available officers are put on this case. They're going to get the scream back come hell or high water from whatever fjords they got. And to focus their investigation, they started with the usual suspects. Chief among them was one man, Paal Anger. He was a knockabout, small-time criminal, former professional footballer. He played in the Elite Serien, which is the Norwegian version of the Premier League. Not a football star, but he was a pro gamer, right? He saw time on the pitch, whole thing. The reason why the Norwegian police were immediately focused on this former footballer, this former soccer player was, and also just a general good-time guy, Paal Anger, is that he was known to be rather obsessed with Edvard Munch.
He's got the greatest name ever.
Totally. And you see, he'd once been sent to prison for stealing a different Edvard Munch masterpiece.
What?
One called The Vampire. So the police, the cops, they thought, we got perfect good reason to go roust him. So they go and they roust him and they question Paal Anger. And that's what they did. So what do you think, Elizabeth? Do you think Paal Anger said to the cops when they showed up asking questions about this missing Edvard Munch masterpiece? Do you think he gave him the low? Do you think he dodged? What do you think, Elizabeth?
You're going to have to tell me.
I will tell you after these messages.
Nice.
Which I hear are both fresh and so clean.
Oh,
so
delish.
You got that going for you.
Yeah.
Elizabeth,
Zaron.
we're back.
Hi.
You ready for more Norwegian art crime?
I am.
I thought this would be fun for you. We hadn't done an art crime. I hadn't done an art crime in a while.
Yeah.
And I know you like them. And this
I love
one's
'em.
Norwegian flavored.
This is excellent.
So at this point, the Norwegian police are feeling the heat about their missing national treasure. So they turn, as I said, to the one guy, Paal Anger, and they say, hey, Pal, what do you know? Or Paul. It's P-A-A-L.
Paal Anger.
Paal Anger. So when the police question him, he levels with them. He's like, hey, I got nothing to do with it, man. Not this time. So the police are like, oh, okay. They roust him, they check him, they bring him in, they question him, they check his place. They're like, damn it, he seems clean. So who is this Paal Anger? Great question, Elizabeth. I'm just loving how you're just right on my heels.
I'm scribbling down frantically in my notepad these questions.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So we'll let the stolen masterpiece dangle in the wind while we get to know Paal.
Okay.
At age 16, Paal Anger left his hometown to go seek his fortunes in the wide, wide world. He was an ambitious lad. He was from Tvita, which is a neighborhood of Alna, which is a suburb of Oslo.
Sure.
Norway. Now, this was a rough neighborhood, apparently, from everything I read. I've never been there. But young Paal wanted out. He figured he'd get out either via professional soccer stardom or crime.
Okay.
Kind of gives you an idea of the neighborhood.
Yeah,
right?
I got
So it's
it.
like the whole basketball or crime idea, except for it's soccer. So he was known to be a slender, fair-haired boy who was often not at school. One of his classmates recalled how, quote, the hours he was present at school in the 8th year can be counted on one hand. When he came, it was only to play sport. Oddly enough, nobody seemed to care. Not about him playing sport, but him not going to school.
Yeah, him just not showing up.
So he kicked about for his adolescence. He studied his ball handling skills and his coked out tenacity and his goal scoring focus of his football hero, Diego Maradona.
Oh, God.
Right? And he studied the ways of his cinematic hero, Don Corleone.
Oh, dear.
He liked to dream about the movie that would one day be made about his life. Either as a dashing and charming football star or an underworld mob boss. You take your pick. Either one was cool with Paal Anger.
Oh, son.
And when I say he studied Diego Maradona and Don Corleone, I mean as a teenager, he once flew to New York just to see the streets that Marlon Brando had walked on in The Godfather.
And he knows it's fake.
Yeah, but he wanted to see that little part of Little Italy.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to feel that,
Okay.
So around that same time, his soccer goals were coming along. He joined the junior teams of a professional squad. And so then, think of it like minor league soccer.
Sure.
His teammates liked him, and they thought he belonged on the team. He was good. He was clearly a professional grade player. He was genial, likable guy. He spread the ball around. He also drove super slick sports cars, so he was kind of cool. His teammates also wondered how he had so much money for such flash.
I was going to say, yeah.
He's like 16, 17, 18. Or like,
and he's in like a minor league. Yeah, he's not.
People are barely able to pay their rent, and he's over there like, oh yeah, I got a new Beamer. Like, you just had another one 2 months ago. So he had this one sports car that he had painted P. Anger, like P, the word letter P, and then ENGER, which is basically Paal Anger, right? Painted on the side.
Penger.
Elizabeth, this would all be way funnier to you if you spoke Norwegian.
Oh.
Because Penger is Norwegian for money. So he was driving around in a sports car with the word money painted on the side.
Okay.
P. Anger.
Yeah.
So as Paal Anger used to love to boast to anyone who would listen, there's only one Porsche in Oslo, mine. And on Sundays, people from the western edge, this was the rich part of Oslo, came to Vita to watch me washing the car. So they came to watch him do car washes. Yeah, I'm like, okay, so that's his lie. Yeah. Anyway, so there he is, this young footballer with a taste for the fast life and an eye on crime. 18.
The people on the west side of town are like, hey, honey, I heard there's a Porsche over in the rough area.
We just came to check you didn't steal my car.
Put the kids in the Volvo, and we're going to drive over. And kids, who wants to go watch a guy wash a sports car?
Bring snacks.
Like me.
Should we bring the dogs?
Bring the kippers. Let's go.
At 18, he makes his debut in the UEFA Cup match. He came on as a substitute, right? So by 21, he's on his way now to his legitimate soccer dreams. By 1988, at the age of 21, he makes his professional debut on the soccer pitch for the 5-time champs of the Norwegian Professional League, Eliteserien, the club called Vålerenga.
Okay.
It's all right. So this club manager of that soccer team, the Dag Vestland, said of Paal Anger, he was very talented. He was small, quick, tough. I liked him a lot. He was always very well behaved in my dealings with him. Always polite, very humble. Now, his teammates had a slightly different, say, street-level view of Paal Anger.
Yeah.
One teammate said, what I remember about Paal was he never took the tube to the city. He would steal a car to make the journey instead. His specialty was Porsches, BMWs, and Mercedes. It was all a bit confusing because we had a policeman on the same team.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it wasn't all a big secret. And some folks clearly knew how this young kid could live so big as a backup professional soccer player. And most of them didn't seem to care, much like when he wasn't attending class. He just kind of slips through the cracks in life, right?
Interesting.
Most of them. There were the 2 teammates who were part-time cops. Not 1. 2.
Wait.
And they saw how Paal Anger would never wear the same tracksuit twice because he would trash the old one and just always rock a brand new fit. And this bothered them. They're like, what the hell? So they get suspicious.
Very wasteful.
And they didn't like his answer that he hated to do laundry.
No.
So Knut Errold Loberg was one of the cops, and he later recalled how Paal Anger and his football prowess were, well, as he put it, quote, he was a good player. He had scored a lot of goals for the junior side. He was sharp, quick, technical, but to stay concentrated and be professional, there were a lot of challenges for him. I tried to help him. Everyone in the dressing room looked out for one another. So being a cop, the way he decides to help his teammate is to follow him after practice, after matches, on off days, just generally snoop on him. He and the other cop teammate follow him all around Oslo. They clock how he spends large amounts of money. He's buying clothes. He's buying fancy watches. He obviously didn't need to buy cars. He just stole those. Yeah. But he did drop mad loot on expensive restaurants, hotels, vacations. He's living that luxe life. His cop teammates hate this. So they're surveilling him, and they're documenting this with photographs and at 11 p.m. he bought such and such. So they also see how he's not just so much of it being his money that he's spending, it's other people's money he's spending, Elizabeth, because he was a burglar and a thief, and they watched him also do those crimes. They watched him steal jewelry, they watched him rob cash. And finally, when they thought they had enough evidence on their teammate, they turned it over to full-time cops, who then raided their teammate's home, and the cops found a veritable lair of stolen goods.
Oh, man.
Now, what really shocked them was hanging there on one of the walls was a stolen masterpiece, the Edvard Munch painting, The Vampire.
What?
Yes, painted the same year as The Scream. The original title for the work was Love and Pain. This man was going through it.
Yeah.
The figure in the painting is a woman. She has this shocking red hair. She's embracing her victim, and she's just about to plunge her fangs into his neck.
Okay.
Turns out the painting had been stolen from the Oslo Munch Museum a few months earlier, and it was not like the rest of his stolen bounty. It didn't make sense to the cops. They're like, what the hell is this doing here?
Yeah, right?
So it's mostly just stuff a young man would want, and then this one stolen masterpiece. Yeah. And specifically, why that one? So Paal Anger explained it to the cops. He's like, well, and I quote, I had no relationship with art other than in primary school. We went on a trip to the Munch Museum. I remember thinking his pictures were scary, and I was dreaming about them at night. Maybe Munch wasn't the only artist I had any relationship with. Yeah. So he stole a painting.
Yeah, he's like, okay.
He I want one. I can't afford one.
Right.
I'll take this one. Anyway, he gets tried, convicted, sentenced to prison. Does his time. And then in 1994, he gets released. And almost immediately, he goes right back to crime. He's like, I'm good at only two things.
What else is he going to do?
So yeah, he's like, I'm too old for soccer now.
Right.
So it wasn't his fault, Elizabeth. He was trying to go straight, though, apparently. Or I don't know if that's true. I just like to say it. But I do know that this crime that he was about to commit wasn't his idea. Someone approached him. He was commissioned to do a heist. Okay. Since he had experience of stealing the vampire, his client said, I want you to steal another Edvard Munch masterpiece. The client wanted Paal to steal the Scream. Huh. He's like, okay, well, I don't care. I'm not a Norwegian patriot. I'll steal that national treasure. Oh, and I forgot to tell you up top. The reason why the police came to Paal when the Scream was stolen in 2004 is because he'd already attempted to steal it back in 1994.
Oh, he attempted, so he wasn't.
The client promised he would be paid extremely well. But not only that, he would keep the painting. He's like, you keep it.
Wait.
Yeah. He gets to keep the Scream.
Okay,
so what's the client paying for?
Just to stick it to the museum?
Like what gives? Yeah, was he like an old employee? He won the lottery?
I'm wondering.
Why would someone pay to steal a painting and then let him keep the painting, right? Yeah. Great question, Elizabeth.
I know it is.
Paal didn't ask such questions. He didn't care. He said he went out.
That's walking right into the...
and he hired 3 accomplices for his art heist, which now brings us to the 1994 Winter Olympics. You're wondering, what does this have to do with the story, Zaron? Do you remember the Lillehammer Winter Olympics? It was the 17th Olympic Winter Games. The games lasted from February 12th to February 27th, 1994. Okay, I know it might jog your memory of Lillehammer Winter Olympics. That's the game when Nancy Kerrigan got kneecapped by Tonya Harding's husband or boyfriend or whatever, Jeff Galooly.
That's right.
And I didn't know his name. I had to look it up, right? But I knew you'd know his name. But I had to look this up because I needed something that maybe you didn't know. He subcontracted the job out to an underling. The guy who swung the beat down stick was Tonya Harding's bodyguard, Sean Eckert. The 1994 Lillehammer Olympics are the ones Nancy Kerrigan missed out on. So there you go. Anyway, February 12th, 1994, the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics. They nicknamed it, Elizabeth, the Fairy Tale Games. Aww. I know there were dancers dressed as angels and shepherds, ancient ghouls, Nordic witches, all doing choreographed moves as fireworks lit up the white fallen snow, just reflecting the explosions above. It was a wintertime merriment. That same day, early in the morning, 2 men propped a ladder up against the wall of the National Gallery in Oslo. They scurried up the ladder. Then one of them fell off the ladder, so they scurried back up the ladder. Then one of them smashed a window pane. They pulled open the window. Then they just slipped inside and dropped onto the floor. They scanned the gallery. Did anybody see us? Then they spotted what they came for, the Scream. They pulled some wire cutters from a pocket. Snip, snip, paintings freed, liberated, or in legal terms, stolen. Paal pulled a note from his pocket and left it behind. The note, because you seem to want to know this, it read, and I quote, 1,000 thanks for your poor security.
Oh, get out of here.
After the note was placed, the thieves hustled back to their open window, their waiting ladder, and one after the other, they snuck back out. This time, I don't think they fell. They got away with Edvard Munch's most celebrated painting, one of the most famous and recognizable paintings in the world. When they get back to the getaway car, they shove the painting down behind the driver's seat and just speed away.
Oh, my God. What?
They were not prepared for this theft.
No.
They did not have like a carrier case. No. They didn't have any of that. They're just like, this will fit by your feet, Bob. Get in.
Scoot over.
So later that day, when the museum staff discovered the missing masterpiece, they immediately checked the surveillance footage. And they checked also, all the way back to the night before. They scanned the video. They find there are images of the thieves. Oh, thank goodness. But the images are so blurry, they're essentially useless. They're like, we should have got new cameras. So the chief investigator for the Oslo police, a man named Leif Lear, he said, simply put, we had nothing to go on.
Well,
what do they do? Like, what do they have to go on? They got nothing. So the Norwegians can't let someone steal their national treasure and just get away with it. So they outsourced the investigation to real professionals who have some experience retrieving stolen artwork. They turned to Scotland Yard.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you'd like that.
I do.
They turned to a man named Charles Hill. He's an Englishman. He's a cop who was an undercover detective, works for Scotland Yard's Art and Antiques Division. I think you could get a spot there.
That would be amazing.
Specifically, he worked under the aegis of the London Metro Police. So as Paal described this detective, Sherlock Holmes came to Norway, which was just kind of funny.
Yeah.
And Charles Hill equally had an assessment of Paal Enger. He said of the wannabe master thief, in my experience, all thieves are the same. The minute they see money and smell it, the good sense disappears out of their skulls. Then they're hooked, the way a fisherman would hook a fish. So what he planned to do was...
I like the clarification of hooked.
Yeah.
Oh, how do you mean it? Oh, like a fisherman. Oh, yes.
So not
hooked.
like you're a heroin
like
peddling.
Hooked.
Well,
yes,
you know,
yes. Literally hooked.
When your nation has a history of pushing opium onto other countries, you have to clarify hooked. You're like, no, I mean it like fishing, not like what we did to China. Anyway, all back to it. The British Bobby also decided he needed to play dress up. He needed a wig and some costume changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? I figured you like that.
I totally need to work in that department.
You should start wearing wigs and costume changes here.
Everything. How do you know I'm not right now?
That's very true. I actually cannot tell at all. It's so smoky in here. Now, his plan was he'd pretend to be a, quote, dodgy, mid-Atlantic accented art dealer.
Oh, I love it. God, I really need to work. I want to do a character. Yeah. I want the wig, the costume.
They're working backstories over there. I mean, they got like a whole method department.
You.
So as I said, this Brit detective, Charles Hill, fully commits to the bit. He decides his dodgy art dealer was named Chris Roberts. Mm-hmm. He worked for the J. Paul Getty Museum in L.A.
Okay.
For his look, he decided Chris Roberts was a bow tie guy.
Yeah, that tracks.
He favored floral waistcoats. Chris Roberts also liked to top with a cream blazer.
Oh, he's a bit of a fop.
Yeah, so he also carried a suitcase, which he claimed was stuffed with cash for art buys. So all of his prep work, he didn't think much of his quarry, though. As Hill recalled of his targets, the screen was stolen by a bunch of Oslo no-hopers. You could say it was Norwegian organized crime, 2 men and a ladder. They went up the ladder and fell off. Then they went up again and broke in the window to go in and collect the painting.
It feels like it's an offensive joke. Like,
right?
What do you call Norwegian organized crime?
2 guys and a ladder.
I
feel like somehow there's a slur involved that we don't know about as a Brits.
It's going above my head.
Because non-Europeans were like, is this like a like a Polish joke, but for the Norwegians?
Yeah, right? Oh, God.
So I didn't know. I had to quote the guy.
Thank you for doing that, because that's what it feels like.
Once he studied what he could of these suspects, he starts to work the black market connections he has, see if he can get a back channel message to the art thieves to set up a meet and greet and to buy back the stolen masterpiece. To help with his manhunt, the undercover detective partners with an underworld figure, but a small group of middlemen, right? Through his criminal confederates, he gets an offer of £500,000 for the stolen masterpiece, just spread out amongst the underworld.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Norwegian police are still working the case, but they've got their expert, right? Some of them didn't want this Brit to get all the glory for saving their national treasure. I mean, fair. The Norwegian cops were working with the theory that the painting was stolen by a bunch of fame seekers who wanted to use the world's attention thanks to the Lillehammer Winter Olympics to guarantee they'd become famous or rich. That is, even if they got caught, they'd be famous, or if not, they'd be rich. That was their theory. Other Norwegian cops were convinced that there was a Mr. Big who'd hired thieves to steal the artwork for him because that was the talk in the underworld. This is like some weird Dr. No plot from James Bond.
Yeah.
Now, to complicate things, there was also an anti-abortion campaign, and a bunch of their most ardent supporters claimed they had stolen the painting.
Oh, get out of here.
And in one of their propaganda videos that they released, they said if one of their propaganda videos was broadcast and released on Norwegian TV, then they'd return the painting.
So they got that problem over there, too.
Yeah, that's one over there, too. Against the backdrop of competing theories and nonsense and just straight up weirdness, undercover detective Charles Hill starts to stalk his criminal prey. Wig on, outfits locked.
See, in my head, he's played by Benedict Cabbage Patch.
Oh, nice.
And then the Paal
Anger? Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's played by Chet Hanks.
I did not see that
and
coming.
The underworld, like the Dr. No, that's Tom Hardy.
Oh, very good.
I'm making a great movie.
This is amazing. I love this.
Yeah.
So he's now at this point assisted by an Amsterdam-based gangster who has a predilection for high-end art.
Who's that? Yeah.
And the black market. This guy, Charles Hill, is convinced it wasn't the anti-abortion activists, not some shadowy Mr. Big or some thrill seekers trying to piggyback off the Winter Olympics.
Yeah.
The Dutch gangster and he are both convinced it's just some amateurs who got lucky.
So Tom Hardy and Benefits Cabbage Patch.
Yes.
They're the ones.
Yes.
Okay.
So
yeah.
You got it.
I got it.
So Charles Hill remembers the manhunt period very well. And he said, and I quote, An art thief catches the disease, you see. There is a madness that afflicts these people. They are not necessarily art lovers, but they view the work as trophies. So he considers himself a hunter of those who go after trophies. So he's a trophy hunter.
Yes.
So then he catches a break, right? Wasn't good surveillance video from the night of the robbery, but 5 days earlier, there was clear, distinct image of a very suspicious character wandering around the museum, clearly casing the joint, and that man looked just like Paal Enger, because it was Paal Enger casing the joint.
Yeah.
The suspect also looked a lot like a guy who'd recently posted a birth announcement in the newspaper that proclaimed his newborn son, Oscar, came into the world, quote, met Ed Skreek, which in Norwegian means with a scream.
Oh, get out of town.
Apparently, he even capitalized the S in Skreek, so it looks like a title.
Yeah.
So that caught the attention of the cops and Detective Charles Hill.
And I love they're like scouring the paper, the parts that people don't really read, like the birth announcements.
Exactly.
Curious.
Also checking misconnections. Anyone see me on the tube? So at this point, Charles Hill's been making headway in his back channel campaign in the underworld. His bait caught a bite. He'd heard back that someone knew a guy who wanted to sell a certain painting. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Know what I mean? Relying on his mid-Atlantic American accent, sounding like Katharine Hepburn, he reels in his perp. Takes him 3 months start to finish. And finally, the wandering path leads to a chalet in the country. That's where he's to meet his thieves for an art buy. But the thieves have also negotiated for more money. They wanted £700,000. The undercover cop agreed to their price. Now the trap was fully set. And we, Elizabeth, will take a break.
Yes.
And after these ads, I will tell you if the dodgy fake art dealer with the good wig game catches the former professional footballer turned art thief.
Can't wait.
And we're back, Elizabeth.
Yeah, we are.
So I got to ask you, you seem like you're on the edge of your seat.
I am 100%.
Do you think that the dodgy mid-Atlantic art dealer who talks like Katharine Hepburn, Charles Hill, was able to get his man?
I think so.
Well, we got to kind of doubt we'd be hearing his name on the show if he didn't get his man.
And this is the earlier theft of the painting. We know it's recovered in order to be stolen again.
Well, maybe. Remember I said there were 4 paintings. See, I'm seeding stuff.
I get it. Okay.
So, since he'd worked so diligently to set up his fraudulent art buy / raid, let's have Charles Hill recount what happens next in the countryside chalet. Over to you, DCI Charles Hill. And I quote from his interview with the BBC. What we did in this particular case was to go from a person who knew someone else and just followed that chain until we eventually got to the people who controlled the painting. When I finally met the bad guys, I had to convince them that the Getty Museum would pay to recover the painting. The Norwegian criminals were on tenterhooks, and I spent the entire time trying to calm them down. Eventually, they rang me quite late, about 11:30. So now that DCI Charles Hill is on a late-night phone call with the thieves trying to control the exchange.
It was quite late. It was 11:30. Was he me?
So apparently when the alleged art thieves phoned him, they told DCI Hill, quote, "Right, we're going to do it now." And I told them, no way. I was going out at midnight to walk in the wild woods with them to get this thing back. We'd have to do it in the morning. In the morning, I said. So he is you. If you can believe it, the art thieves were like, yeah, right. Suppose that makes sense. You want to pop down to the chalet in the morning then? And they did. So DCI Hill was like, I will see you then when the sun's returned. And they make a plan to meet the next day. So back to DCI Hill. We went down to where the dodgy art dealer had a summer home. In the summer house, the painting was downstairs underneath the carpet in the kitchen. It was a set of stairs down to the basement, and he asked me, did I want to get it? And I thought, well, I could do without being down there next Christmas. So I told him that, and you know that what's called Anglo-Saxon vernacular, which he understood. So we went down and got the picture, brought it up, and he laid it on the dining room table, and bang, there it was. It looked like it was a masterpiece. It will tell you that it's a masterpiece. It just jumps out at you. So there you go. He found the painting, Elizabeth.
There it is.
And he also did go down to the basement to be there till next Christmas. Said Anglo-Saxon vernacular.
Well, no, it means that he's going to...
Yeah, oh yeah, I caught that part.
Yeah.
He was getting field dressed
Yeah,
down
he was
there.
going to get got down there.
Yeah, he was going to be not just there till next Christmas, the one after that.
Every Christmas to come.
Elizabeth, DCI Hill had done it. So at this point, he's found Norway's stolen national treasure. Good outsourcing by them, huh?
That's right.
And now he's got to get it out of the summer house with both the painting and himself still intact, which somehow he does. And I guess he'd earned the art thief's trust. He signals the cops. They raid the home. Now he's able to bounce out of the chalet with the stolen masterpiece. He hightails it back to his hotel room where he barricades himself in his room until proper authorities come to take it. He doesn't even trust the other cops.
Good for him.
Right? So he waits in case anybody gets any cute ideas trying to steal this painting back. Everyone seems to want it. It's like a really sticky painting. I don't know what to tell you. So, but DCI Hill does have this to say, and I quote, "I rang back to Oslo and told them I had it and barricaded myself in the hotel. Sure enough, after an hour or so, the Central Detective Unit in Oslo turned up and I unbarricaded the room. And there was the picture. Then I walked down, actually onto the pier, and I felt to myself, done. It felt good. It's exhilarating to get the what you're going for back. I can actually recover these things and feel as if I'm doing my bit for creation."
Wow.
Doing my bit for creation.
I love that it took him an hour to respond.
Yeah, totally. Total emergency.
OPD.
I'll get there just a second. I'm finished, and we got some baked goods over here, really good. Yeah, Paal's mom made them for us. She's been coming by the station. So there you go. Cop for all creation, protector of humanity's most beautiful treasures. Once the scream was recovered, Elizabeth, and the Oslo PD could take a collective breath of relief, what happened to Paal Anger?
Yeah, what happened to Paal Anger?
Well, he was captured by the police, obviously, during the handover. He was arrested. And this is where things get a little weird, mostly because Norwegian justice is so different than our American ideas of prison.
Yeah.
Paal Anger and his accomplices, they all get arrested. They get tried. Anger was found guilty, sentenced to 6.5 years behind bars. All straightforward so far. His accomplices were also sentenced, found guilty, sent to prison. Once again, straightforward so far. Except for they then appealed their judgments and were later released. Why were they able to do this?
Yeah.
They cited a rare Norwegian law about how they were arrested by a UK cop and not by a Norwegian cop, and therefore they were not properly handled and gone through the, basically it was like a chain of custody issue.
Oh, yeah.
And so therefore their bus didn't follow proper Norwegian law and protocols, and they were able to get sprung on this.
That doesn't
All
make sense.
four were sprung free.
Wow.
Except for Paal Anger. This somehow doesn't apply to him because he gets arrested separately somehow. I don't know.
He's annoying everybody and they're like, doesn't apply.
So in 1999, 5 years into his 6.5-year bid, Paal Anger decides he's had enough of prison. So he escapes.
Oh, God. Right? What was it, 5.5 into the 6 or 5 into the 6.5?
5 into the 6.5 year, yeah.
Come on,
He
dude.
escapes. But Elizabeth, you have to hear how he escaped. You worked in a federal prison.
I did.
So imagine this next sentence happening in America. According to the BBC, and I quote, "He did manage to escape while on a field trip, but he was captured 12 days later wearing a blonde wig and dark sunglasses and trying to buy a train ticket to the Danish city of Copenhagen." In Norway, apparently they let the prisoners out to go on field trips. Like to the glue factories or like to the flute makers and the, I don't know, like steel drum makers, like it's Mr. Rogers.
At the federal facility, now they didn't let anybody walk out of the state one. The state one was horrendous.
I'm sure.
At the federal one day I saw an inmate getting into a car and driving off.
They're going to work furlough?
And he had to go. No, someone was explaining to me that, he was working. He would go and pick someone up and bring them back.
Sure.
And it's he's a trustee.
Yeah, but it was one guy.
One guy.
It wasn't like 17, 20 guys loaded in a bus.
But I was like, how in the world?
Going to like an amusement park.
You're going to just let this guy get in a car and drive? And they're like, there are so many security protocols in place that he changes lanes at the wrong time.
Totally.
And
America, they're going to be marked. And then also the parole officers are on them. And then it also becomes just like a fun game for them.
The field trip,
let's go bust this guy.
To the petting zoo.
Yeah, and seriously, I'm not against this practice. I'd like to be clear.
Not at all.
I would want this for our inmates.
Yeah.
I mean, if we, but it just sounds wild to my American ears. Like we loaded them up on a bus, took them on a field trip. The guys have been good this month.
They're actually, I think we've talked about it before, San Quentin is having a full overhaul.
Yeah.
That they have what's called the California model now, which is, emphasis on, rehabilitation and education and such. But now they're taking all these other Scandinavian influences, and that's what they're going to be doing. It's going from a high security to medium security.
Mm-hmm.
Their whole thing is, how do we make good neighbors for when they get out?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So anyway, it's an interesting experiment because right now we're just making better criminals.
Totally, it's just criminal education. It's like a university for, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, after his wig and sunglasses prison escape attempt failed, Paal Anger finished his sentence in 2000. He was subsequently released. He was at this point 33 years old. Now, remember how I told you up top about the second time the screen was stolen by the Norwegian art thieves who ran into the door?
Yeah.
Remember how I also said the Oslo PD immediately went to Paal Anger and questioned him?
Because they ran into a door. And
He's like, this could be Paal.
It looks like work of Paal.
He wasn't involved, and that was true, but it wasn't the whole story. While he wasn't involved, he was the inspiration.
Oh, really?
So what's the deal with the 2004 theft of the screen? Great question, Elizabeth.
Yes.
After the police questioned Paal Anger and found out it wasn't him, they had to consider new theories. So someone out there, someone was like, what if it wasn't Paal Anger, but what if he was the inspiration? What if they were like pulling a Paal Anger?
Amazing.
Right? So like, Elizabeth, in my world, cops and criminals, they both talk like the guys from Ocean's 11, 12, and 13, where it's like, you know what I'm talking about? Like when Brad Pitt's like, oh, off the top of my head, I'd say you're looking at a Boski, a Jim Brown, a Miss Daisy, two Jethros, and a Leon Spinks, not to mention the world's biggest Ella Fitzgerald ever. Yeah. I looked this up because I could never figure out that last one, the biggest Ella Fitzgerald ever. What does he mean when he says that?
Yeah.
Now, I couldn't remember this one. You probably couldn't remember. You definitely couldn't remember this one. In the 70s, there was a series of commercials for the Memorex cassette tapes, and Ella Fitzgerald hits a high C while she's singing and breaks a wine glass.
Oh, I've seen clips. Yeah.
It's a historic ad. They used to cite it all the time. So the commercial narrator then says, is it live or is it Memorex?
Right.
So that was a reference to the bank vault part of the job and how, spoiler alert, they made a mock-up of the vault, robbed that, recorded it, and played it back, a.k.a. is it live or is it Memorex?
Oh, so that's what an Ella Fitzgerald
is.
Oh, interesting.
Deep pulls, right? I thought you'd enjoy that. Okay, back to our story.
Those movies are so well written.
I love them. So what happened to the cats in 2004, who also got lucky and walked away with the scream, just like their inspiration, Paal Anger? So once the Oslo police considered new theories, they came up with a winner. What if the 2004 thieves were doing a Paal Anger and they were what he was, a distraction for other criminals to hit jewelry stores and banks because all the cops are focused on the scream? Turns out that's exactly what it was.
Whoa.
A gang of street criminals who Paal Anger was loosely affiliated with decided to go old school and give the cops something to investigate that wasn't them. So they commissioned some idiot amateurs who weren't Paal Anger to steal the scream and pull a Paal Anger so the street criminals could operate in peace. They could raid banks without hassle for months, which is what they did. Meanwhile, the mastermind for the copycat crime slipped out of the country. He turns up in Madrid, and that's where he, it's believed, linked up with a notorious Norwegian hash smuggler, a guy who could get that sweet Afghan gold.
What?
Now, this mastermind exchanged his cut of the bank raids for some of that sweet Afghani hashish and planned to smuggle his way to freedom. Except for the pair were both busted in a hotel room in Malaga, Spain, because I think the Norwegian hash smuggler was under surveillance, so they get busted in Andalusia.
The Spaniards don't play.
Dude, they do not.
Offenses.
Dating back to Franco, they do not play.
That is the last place you want to do some smuggling.
So once he's in custody, the alleged mastermind of the bank raids and the second theft of the scream confesses his involvement. He names the four men he hired to pull the job. He's like, you can find them here, here, and here. Paal Anger gets questioned, taken into custody, and that's when he gets exonerated for any part in the copycat theft. And the paintings were recovered.
Yeah.
After that, Paal Anger went the other way with art, Elizabeth. Instead of stealing it, he started creating it.
Oh, my goodness.
Just like your guys, this former footballer, street criminal, art thief becomes a fine art painter himself.
Wow.
He prefers to work in abstract forms. Okay. His work is considered reminiscent of Edvard Munch's use of color and tonality. In fact, some folks believe they can see a ghostly image of the scream painted into many of Paal Anger's works. Yeah, anyway, down in the corner of his painting, he signs them P. Anger, which, as you recall, is money in Norwegian. So he's still that kid in the stolen Beamer.
Wow.
He refuses to sell his story, by the way, because the UK tabloids came calling.
Oh, sure.
One even offered him £100,000 to tell his story in their pages as an exclusive. Paal Anger thought better of it.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to betray or piss off his underworld associates.
Yeah.
And
he's like, Vladimir, stop.
He was smart about it. That was the one choice. He looked out for him in this one moment.
Yeah.
He did also occasionally speak about the burglary that made him Norway's most famous art thief. And he did share what it felt like to steal the scream. As Paal Anger said, and I quote, this is the coolest painting in the world. I just drove around for hours thinking about what I should do and what would happen. It was really electric. It was just a great feeling. It was magical.
Huh, I bet.
Even though he was 53 at the time of a very late interview, the newly minted fine art painter was still something of a scofflaw because he was facing 19 traffic offenses, ranging from
19?
stealing a taxi sign to driving without a license.
Oh, God.
So he was still kind of about that life.
Yeah.
For a final word from Paal Anger, he once told a Norwegian newspaper that from his life in crime, he learned one all-important lesson, and I quote, "You should not live in movies and get bad role models."
That's a very good piece of advice.
We hear this a lot on the show about how movies were an inspiration for these kids and they become criminals. And whatever. Who am I to say where we should draw our inspirations? Art imitates life imitates art, crime imitates movies, all of that, right? Two-way street. But if you're going to choose crime movies as your rule book for life, try to pick ones where the criminal role models get away with it.
Yes.
They're rare, I know, but you can find them. Think The Shawshank Redemption. So, Elizabeth, what's our ridiculous takeaway here?
Oh, my goodness. I am still casting the film in my head.
Yes.
But no, I think that it's curious, this notion of a big crime to distract from all the little crimes.
Right?
I think that a lot. I think I've talked about it before, like my suspicions when I see those big crimes. It's clever.
Yeah.
It's very clever.
That's the move.
Zaron, what's your ridiculous takeaway?
Let me think about that. I don't have one.
Okay, cool.
No, I'm kidding. I think wig game. We need to get into wigs.
Oh,
we do the shows. We both show up in a wig.
Yeah.
You down?
I'm down. I'm down.
So there you go. That's all I got for you.
All right.
Producer D, you got to talk back because I'm in the mood to wash this down with something frothy.
Talk back. Oh my God, did he just say that?
OMG.
Elizabeth, I've been waiting to send something to you. This is Vanessa from Texas. I'm going to send it now. It's not what I wanted to send. It's mamas, don't let your babies grow up to drive Cybertrucks. And the reason why I didn't want to send that is because it could have been better, but you told me Banksy might have been a woman. I'm freaking out.
Listen, girl, I got you. First of all, that was perfect.
No, that was good.
It was beautiful. And mamas should not let their babies grow up to drive Cybertrucks.
I think Willie and Waylon would both
they would
support that.
100% be on board with that. And yeah, Banksy, maybe a woman. I don't know. No, you know my theory. It's Banksy's everybody.
We're all Banksy. By the way, you're Banksy.
Yeah, thanks, girl.
So there you go. You can find us online, Ridiculous Crime, on social medias. Go look. And we have a website, ridiculouscrime.com, which is, I think, now up for Monopoly Role-Playing Game of the Year.
Oh, really?
Very rare award, but
That's awesome.
I'm very excited. Yeah, tabletop games called us a
They
front
only give
runner.
those out every 10 years.
Yeah, and obviously we love your talkback, so please go to the iHeart app, download it, record one. Maybe you'll hear your voice here. Do it. It's fun. Also, email us if you'd like at ridiculouscrime@gmail.com. Please start at the email, Dear Producer D. And we also have, by the way, a new YouTube channel, which apparently I told you was the wrong place last time. Go to Ridiculous Crime Pod.
Yeah, just Ridiculous Crime Pod.
Yeah.
I've said it the wrong way. You've said it the wrong way.
So there you go.
Ridiculous Crime Pod. I don't know. I just work here.
We're all about that pod life.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening. We will catch you next crime. Ridiculous Crime is hosted by Elizabeth Dutton, that's her, and Zaron Burnett. That's me. Produced and edited by the man who made Screaming famous, Dave Kustik. And starring Annalise Rucker as Judith. Research is by the inventor of the Edvard Munch multicolor mood ring, Marissa Brown. Our theme song is by the house band, The Stolen Beamers, a.k.a. Norway's favorite sinister rock duo, Thomas Lee and Travis Dutton. The host wardrobe provided by Botany 500. Guest hair and makeup by Sparkle Shot and Mr. Andre. Executive producers are the men who've made Making Others Famous, Ben Bolin, and Noel Brown.
Ridiculous crime.
Say it one more time.
Ridiculous crime.
Ridiculous Crime is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.